chapter 1, and we're starting on chapter 2. I hope you feel it's been worthwhile taking our time working through that grand first chapter. Now we start on the second. There's a slight change of scene, actually quite a big change of scene really, from what God has done in the great sweep of salvation down to us, what we are, what we were. As for you, Paul says, moving from what God has done, as for you, you were dead in transgressions and sins in which you used to live. I remember talking to an old couple when I was first in ministry, and the lady, I don't remember what sparked the remark, she said, "Oh, I'm not a bad person, Mr. Rees." No, well, I don't remember how the conversation went after that, but I remember speaking to a man on the street. We were doing some evangelism, and he was outside a pub with a pint, and he said, "Oh, it's a bit harsh calling me a sinner just because I like a pint." Well, I hadn't said that, actually. And then talking to a couple of dads at my son's school once, one of them said, "Well, do you think then that people are essentially good and that they do wrong things because of the circumstances in which they find themselves?" And I replied something, I think, to the effect, well, obviously circumstances play a part, poverty and things like that. But the Bible's starting point of view is that we are sinners. We need to be saved from that sin. They were a little shocked by that turn in the conversation. Because the Bible is no doubt a challenge to what the prevailing view is, that we are essentially good people inside with some problems wrapping around the outside. It just challenges that. And the mantra that comes out of it, well, just be yourself. Paul's statements in Ephesians here in chapter 2 and also in chapter 4 just blow that out of the water. Dead in transgressions and sins. It's a pretty categorical statement there. Now, when the Bible talks about transgressions, well, we think of overstepping the mark. That's what transgress means. But the Greek original is to do with a false step, deviating from what is right. And sins, well, in the Greek origin of the word, it means missing the mark. I think English archers used to talk about a sin as an arrow that's missed its mark. But more generally, the word is just used to describe moral evil, whether that's one action or what we are inside. Now, actually, the Bible, the New Testament in particular, has a whole catalogue of words that describe sin. It might make quite depressing reading, actually, if it wasn't for the fact the Bible also has a much larger catalogue of words describing salvation. We'll get to that point, but we've got to stick where we are in verse 1 at the moment. As Paul says, we are dead in sin. It's not only our actions that are wrong, it's what we are. We have no spiritual life. We have nothing to commend ourselves to God at all. We're rightly concerned about the pandemic that we're living in at the moment and the lives it is taking, but the Bible's view is that this is the greatest plague we need to deal with, we need to face, and it's with us all the time. You might think this is really depressing, talking about it like this. It's not actually in the end, because of the way the passage goes. It's liberating. The chapter outlines how God saves and brings life. But I do accept that it is quite challenging if you think, well, I'm essentially a good person at heart, and I find this uneasy. I don't like the way that the Bible is talking here. You know, if you go to America, if you fly to America, I know you can't at the moment, but when you can, if you fly, they'll give you a card on board. It's great. It's wonderfully analog after all the electronics you've had to get through to get to this point. And there's questions about who you are and what you're doing when you're going to America. And there are two questions that included that stand out. One is, are you a member of a terrorist organization? I have no idea who answers yes for that one. I could imagine that even Osama bin Laden would put no. The second question is, are you guilty of moral turpitude? Yeah, I had to look that one up as well. It means wicked or depraved character or behavior. And I think that nails the Bible understanding of our problem. Not that it uses the word turpitude, but that this concept of it's both outward and inward, that where the problem lies. That it's not just our actions, but it's what we are. We try to separate our actions often from ourselves, saying, I did this, but that's not really me. Well, the Bible says it actually is. I think actually, if you were to answer yes to that question on the American boarding card, that they would turn you away at the gate. They say, we don't want your kind in the United States of America. But answering yes to that question to God is the key to getting in. Save me from myself is what you're saying. The good news, of course, is that God does. That's what the passage is about. That's where Paul is starting. He starts in the past tense. If you're a follower of Jesus, this is what you were. But of course, the challenge is there. Do you need to be honest about yourself? That's where the Bible always leads us. So reflect on that. If you're a follower of Jesus, this is what you were. This is what you were. But if you're not, then this is what you are. And you need to do something about it. You need to turn to God to find his peace and salvation. But that's where the passage is going. And we'll see more of that tomorrow.